Breaking tonight, Quentin Tarantino is not backing down from his controversial comments about police as the divisive Hollywood director now doubles down on an issue that has made him a target of more than 250,000 police officers across this country. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Facing a nationwide police boycott of his films, the latest of which is due out this Christmas, Tarantino chose to give his first TV interview just moments ago to MSNBC host Chris Hayes. Yesterday, Tarantino offered his first comments on the controversy, telling the LA Times that he has been slandered and refusing to apologize for remarks so incendiary that not even his Hollywood bosses are backing him up. Harvey Weinstein, the producer behind his latest film, is reportedly furious with Tarantino. Here are the comments Tarantino made at an anti-police brutality rally that made folks so angry.
I am a human being with a conscience, and when I see murder, I cannot stand by, and I have to call the murdered, and I have to call the murderers the murderers.
Well, just moments ago, Tarantino gave his very first sit-down interview since the controversy started, and when given the chance to apologize, Tarantino instead appeared to double down.
We were at a rally that was dealing with unarmed people, mostly black and brown, who have been shot and killed or beaten or strangled by the police. And I was obviously referring to the people in those type of situations. I was referring to Eric Gardner. I was referring to Sam DuBose. I was referring to Antonio Guzman Lopez. I was referring to Tamir Rice. That's what I was referring to. In those cases in particular that we're talking about, I actually do believe that they were murders. I was under the impression I was an American and that I had First Amendment rights, and there was no problem with me going to an anti-police brutality protest and speaking my mind. And just because I was at an anti-police brutality protest doesn't mean I'm anti-police. Because I had made statements in some interviews, along the way that had suggested that I'm on their side when it comes to this issue of, ultimately what I feel is a problem of white supremacy in this country. And they realized that I was, they gathered that I was on their side, and they approached me about it, and they explained the situation to me, and I was happy to show up. The timing was very unfortunate, and his death, that officer's death, is a tragedy. I acknowledge that 100%, and my heart goes out to him and goes out to his loved ones. However, the point of the rally was to bring these families. We had over 40 families, not 40 people, but 40 different families that this has happened to come out and tell their stories and say their loved one's name. And that's what's not being talked about. And so what? Because that happened, we're going to say, oh, no, don't tell your story. I know we flew you out here. We're going to fly you back. We'll do it at another time. It's just not convenient. I'm not a cop hater, but Patrick Lynch, that's the way they attack me, is calling me a cop hater. That's the way that Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark, who's on Fox all the time, says that I'm putting police in danger by standing up for the rights of unarmed citizens who have been killed by the police. But at the same time, they say that about anybody who acknowledges that there's a problem in law enforcement in this country right now is considered by law enforcement part of the problem, whether that be me, whether that be Bill de Blasio, whether that be President Barack Obama, who in the case of both Patrick Lynch and David Clark have accused all three of us. It's much easier to feign outrage and start arguments with celebrities than it is to deal with the fact that they've the citizenry has lost trust in them.
So I don't think he's going to be apologizing. Joining me now to discuss it, former NY City Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik and Bill Stanton, a former NYPD officer and founding partner of Q Verity. Good to see you both. So no, there won't be an apology. Instead, we've taken it to a new level. This is not only about bad cops, it's about their white supremacy. Mr. Commissioner, I'll let you start with that one.
I can't even get into the white supremacy thing. I think there's two primary issues. This is a guy that wouldn't have the courage to go out and do the job that the men and women in this country do in law enforcement ever. He just wouldn't. He wouldn't have the courage, the commitment, the dedication. And I think there's something that has to be said for the number you started with. There's 700,000 cops in this country, state, local, and federal law enforcement officers. When you tack on their families, I think they should send a message to him and people like him. Cops aren't murderers. They have to send him a message and make sure he understands that. And one of the ways to make him understand it is they have to send him a message by not attending his movie, by, you know.
And that's clearly what this is. He had to come out because the pressure's mounting on him. And the Hollywood producers are not happy that he chose to go to this anti-police brutality rally. But it certainly sounded, in his words, like there was a greater sentiment there. And instead of just saying, you know, to those good cops that I lumped in or who felt lumped in by my blanket statement, I apologize. Not only did he not apologize, Bill, he played the victim. And then he added racism into it.
He played the victim, and he says he's a person with a conscience. Well, this ex-cop is someone with common sense, and in my opinion, he's a buffoon. He is doing something that is becoming so divisive in this country, and he's just throwing fuel on the fire, and he's making a mistake. While he has his First Amendment right to spout all this ridiculousness,
correct, right.
It's my First Amendment right and my vote not to go to that movie and to go to every other movie but his. And I got a strong feeling the families of police officers as well as cops aren't going to go. We're a tough breed. Sticks and stones and bullets can hurt us. But his words, they just irritate everyone.
But what he says is now that these cops are feigning outrage, that they're feigning their outrage at what he said.
You know, Megyn, there's another issue here. He did this 3 or 4 days after the death of police officer Holder in this city.
Well, he admitted that the timing was very bad. He said, I admit it was very unfortunate.
Well, that's his decision. He decided to stand up there. And who did he stand up there with? The same people that are calling for cops to be killed, the same those same types of people. Well, if that's what you're going to do, if that's what you think you're going to do, then I think it's time for the cops to pay back and send him a message.
He came out, Bill, though, and said, I am not a cop hater. You know, that there are some, and he listed some of the cases where there were actual murders, true murders, deemed murder by the criminal justice system, by cops of black citizens. And that's incontrovertible. So he says, I'm referring to cases like that, not to all cops.
You know the way it sounds like when a racist will say, well, you're black, you're not like one of them. And to me, it's racist against every officer in blue. He makes these blanket statements and he tries to take a baby step back and then doubles down. It's ridiculous. You know, cops overwhelmingly put their lives on the line. This man is a hypocrite. There are people in Hollywood, a number of them, that live in a bubble. There are others who don't think like him. But he is in a bubble while he's on his private jets, on his private sets, being protected, by the way, by cops and ex-cops.
Oh, just a couple of weeks ago, he called the cops. This hit earlier, that he just had to call the cops to his estate 13 days before he whipped up that crowd when somebody broke onto his property.
But and he's the same, as Billy's talking about, he's the same kind of guy that's in Hollywood that makes tens of millions of dollars.
Oh, he's worth over $100 million, reportedly.
Imitating the lives of these cops. There's people in Hollywood
who make $50,000 a year.
Who make $50,000, $60,000 a year. That's right.
Here's the last thing. To what extent do the media and even the politicians play into this narrative? Because there was a report even earlier this week. Hillary Clinton met with the mother of Trayvon Martin, fine. Tamir Rice, fine. That's a controversial case. But also the mother of Michael Brown. Michael Brown, who was killed, it's been proven by the Department of Justice, while he was attacking a police officer. And so people hold up people like Michael Brown as this victim of cops when it's been proven he was not.
So here's the question. Would Hillary Clinton be visiting Officer Wilson if Michael Brown finished the job he started? My guess is no.
Great to see you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.